a lease renegotiation for Pohakaloa. There is nothing right now. We are 40 months away from the expiration, given the prematurity of even talking about eminent domain, even threatening condemnation on a state and an indigenous people that has already sacrificed more land and spilled more blood as members of the armed services as well. Will you agree to take that threat of condemnation, eminent domain, completely off the table and commit to real negotiations for what a lease could look like as we talk about dollars, as we talk about length of time? Clearly, you will not be squatting for $1 for 65 years as you did for the past 65 years, but also talking about what it means to be that good neighbor. And I know you want to be that good neighbor. So how are you going to contribute to the community benefit? How are you going to respect Native Hawaiian rights, cultures, sites? How can we talk about even reducing footprints? All of these things that should be a part of a real, true, open and honest negotiation that should be made public so the public can comment. Will you commit to take that threat, that gun to people's head, that condemnation and eminent domain must be imposed while we are still 40 months out, that you will commit to a real solid negotiation?
Ma'am, I commit to taking that back to the Secretary of the Army and reinforcing.
So you're telling me that at the end of the day, because I asked Gillis the same question, your civilian counterpart, I asked him to take that threat off, is the only one who can take the threat of condemnation and eminent domain, something that is truly impacting our community back home. Secretary Hegseth is the only one who can say, we will take that away.
Oh, ma'am, I'm taking that. I work for the Secretary of the Army. That's what I meant. I'm going to take that back to the Secretary of the Army. I don't know where the threat came from.
The threat came in the language that was offered to this committee.
Yes, ma'am.
So I think we need to, and if you can take this back, tell this committee straightforward, we don't need to be talking about any kind of language provisions in this NDAA about condemnation or eminent domain, because we are still actively in the negotiation process. We haven't even made a formal request to the state of Hawaii. Nothing's been offered. We haven't gone to the community to talk about what even an extension of the lease would look like. So first and foremost, let's withdraw from HAS, the Armed Services Committee, any provisions that you have requested to consider language to authorize any kind of condemnation or eminent domain. Will you do that? Can you do that? Is that in your authority?
Well, it's not within my authority, ma'am, but I will go back to the Secretary and Secretary of the Army and discuss this. Again, as I said in the beginning, we want to negotiate in true faith.
So what's stopping you? Because right now I have only heard whispers. I've seen language from last NDAA to this one of eminent domain and condemnation. We're talking about a community of people here, an indigenous people. Native Hawaiians are indigenous people to these islands that you've been bombing the hell out of for generations. They never relinquished their sovereignty, not once. You've taken their land already. The admissions act, how do you think you got Pearl Harbor? How do you think you got Marine Corps Base Hawaii? How do you think you got PMRF? You took it. You never even paid $1 for that. So when we talk about trust, you're telling me relationships are so important globally, especially when it comes to crisis. How can you blow up the domestic relationship with a crisis like this?
Yes, ma'am. I appreciate all of your concerns.
People are pissed
yes, ma'am.
in Hawaii, and they absolutely deserve to be, because they've been mistreated, and right now they're being mistreated again, and I look forward to further engagement with everyone above you on this issue. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I yield back.
Mr. Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. And to all the witnesses who are here today, we really appreciate your service to the country. This past Friday, I had a chance of going to Marine Corps Air Station Cherry Point, North Carolina, in the eastern part of our state. And General Guerin, I just want to let you know that it was truly a pleasure to get there to reconnect with the base leaders. Please convey, if you would, my deep appreciation for all the great work that's taking place there. 24/7 air operations, the airfield staying busy. Was there to see the work with the tower, and so much that's going on the ground. The installation earned a distinction as the Marine Corps Air Station of the Year. So I want to, with that, lead into this first question to yourself and General LaMontagne, and that is, what can Congress do, looking across services in this case, to optimize the F-35 mission readiness, and especially as we think about Indo-Pacific deployments.
Congressman, thanks for the question, and thank you for taking the time to visit our Marines at Cherry Point. The F-35 is the most capable strike fighter aircraft in the world, and I think we're showing that right now overseas. I think the biggest degrader for the F-35 right now is spares. It's spares, posture, and repairables. And the reason I'm convinced this is the case is because when we deploy an aircraft and it gets priority for parts, it's meeting and/or exceeding our readiness goals. So I know it is maintainable. It really comes down to spares, posture. And, sir, I think you'll see a big commitment towards that in the PB-27 submission.
Super. Thank you.
Congressman, thank you. Very important issue. Thank you also for the conversation a couple of days ago. I agree with General Gehring. It really is spare parts is a huge part of this. The Air Force has not prioritized this enough over the last several years. So we have basically invested about 85% in our weapons system sustainment account. In 26, we raised that to 86%, previously 85%, this year 86%. In 27, going to 93%. We've got to prioritize this ourselves, and that's exactly what we're doing. Also working through the F-35 Joint Program Office in accordance with that rule set and the global sustainment system reset to try and get those rates where they need to be in the 2030 timeframe.
Yeah. And let me say, too, thank you so much for the call. We covered a lot of ground in a short period of time. And also, I really appreciate you raising the topic on F-15s at Seymour. So thank you. It means a lot. Admiral Kilby, what are the most critical gaps we face, in your opinion, with respect to naval weapon systems, and how do those interface with Marine Corps land, sea, hybrid vehicle operations?
Well, a significant gap we've seen in the last 2 years is the ability to counter UAS aircraft cheaply and effectively. So 2 years ago, we were using very expensive missiles to do that in the Red Sea. And now we've come back with weapons like APKWS and other things. So we've got to really have a rechargeable magazine, a laser, directed energy, high-power microwave, something that could attrite that threat. So I think that's a gap for us. We need to backfill that as quickly as possible so we can reserve our most capable munitions for our most capable threats.
Yep. And let me ask, as a continuation, how can Congress help when we talk about accelerating shipbuilding, that pipeline? I have tremendous interest, especially when we look at the capacity in Virginia